So The Black Phone is directed by Scott Derrickson, and it tells the story of a 13-year-old boy called Finney as he tries to escape the basement of a child murderer commonly known as the Grabber. And right off the bat, I'll just go on and say it. This film was great. I really, really liked The Black Phone. And the first thing that I want to touch upon when discussing this film is the director, Scott Derrickson. For those of you who don't know, Scott Derrickson has directed other movies such as Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, and the first Doctor Strange. So for those of you who don't know, this film, The Black Phone, is the movie that Scott Derrickson made after leaving Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness due to creative differences, and I think you can really, really feel the passion in this film. Every frame of this movie is just full of passion and energy and just, raw creativity. And it is really cool to see Scott Derrickson return to low-ish budget films after doing something as big as the first Doctor Strange. That was really cool, and I think this film was really great due to that. And yeah, I'm very happy for Scott Derrickson because, even though he wasn't able to fulfill his vision for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, he was able to make an amazing horror film that I will remember for the rest of my life. And the first thing that I have to mention when talking about The Black Phone is, most definitely the villain, the antagonist. And his name is the Grabber. He's a child murderer. He's played by Ethan Hawke. And I thought the Grabber was absolutely fantastic. Everything about the Grabber really, really worked. I thought he was such a great horror villain that I would honestly put him up there in the pantheon of the greatest horror movie monsters, along with people such as Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, Ghostface, or Pennywise. I thought the Grabber was a truly exceptional villain. The reason why he's so exceptional is, without a doubt, Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke as the Grabber gives one of the best performances of his career. He is haunting, he is scary, he is sketchy, he's slimy, he just made my skin crawl as I was watching the movie. And I absolutely loved it. His performance was great, but yeah, his performance is not the only thing that makes the Grabber such a compelling villain. There are many more details, and one that I would like to highlight in particular is the mask and, the visual elements of the Grabber. They could have very easily gone with, a very basic, very plain mask that just remains the same throughout the whole film, but instead, they decided to create this, new mask that is divided in two different sections. So throughout the film, Ethan Hawke is changing his mouthpieces or changing his eyepieces depending on his emotions and depending on what he's feeling. And that just makes it so much more dynamic and so much more visually interesting. I love the Grabber. I love the performance. I love the acting. I love how he looks visually. I love the mask. I love everything associated to this character. Also, one thing that I need to highlight when I talk about the Grabber is without a doubt the build-up to his character. When I went into the film, I was like, okay, let's see, the movie's gonna start probably with a scene where the protagonist gets kidnapped by the Grabber. But no, the film takes its time for the protagonist to be kidnapped by the Grabber. But in the meantime, you see small bits and pieces of other children getting kidnapped by the Grabber. And I thought that was great. I thought that was an amazing decision because it allows it to build up. It allows it to simmer. You're watching the film, and every so often you get this chilling sequences and this chilling moments where the fun music just suddenly dies down, and you see this black van going towards the children. And that's it. That's the end of the scene. The next scene, you're seeing a news report and the child is already gone. And it just made my skin crawl. It really got to me. So yeah, that whole build up to actually seeing the Grabber was very well made. And then of course, when he finally shows up and when he finally kidnaps the main character, it's haunting and you know what's happening, but you just have to watch it. And it's amazing. I really, really liked it. It really got under my skin. Now, other elements that I need to highlight about the film is the tension and the stakes. This film is great at maintaining tension the whole way through, and it is great at keeping the stakes at a maximum throughout the whole film. You always know what's at stake. You always know what will happen to the main character if he fails and if he doesn't manage to escape the Grabber's basement. So yeah, in that regard, I thought the film was amazing. Also, the film throws some twists at the viewers the whole way through. And I thought those twists worked surprisingly well and, made sense and made the story more exciting and more interesting. And also, there are a lot of supernatural elements, interspersed throughout the film. I thought those elements were incorporated into the story in a very, very cool way. I really like the way they all factor in and they made sense. They felt like a part of the story, and I really, really like those. Now, the one thing that I really want to emphasize on is that when I was watching this film on the theater, I kept thinking to myself, holy shit, this film reminds me so much of a Stephen King story. And the reason why I say that is because this film, just like most Stephen King stories, is also set in the suburbs. It stars children that are dealing with horrible stuff. It contains supernatural elements. There is comedy and childlike wonder that is mixed with horror and horrific stuff. The protagonists are losers or outcasts. There are bullies in the school that make their life impossible. There's even an alcoholic parent. So yeah, all the Stephen King-isms are here in this film. And yeah, they are great. But the whole way through, I was like, this is amazing, but this feels a lot like Stephen King. And then after watching the film, when I came back to my place and I started doing some research for this review, it came to no surprise, and it made perfect sense why this film reminded me so much of Stephen King. And that is because this movie is actually based on a short story by Joe Hill, who, for those of you who don't know, is actually Stephen King's son. So yeah, that was really cool. I guess like father, like son, you know? But yeah, so that was just a little side note of something interesting that I found out after having watched the film. But coming back to my review, I would like to touch upon other performances because yes, Ethan Hawke is amazing as the grabber, but Ethan Hawke isn't the only character in this film, and there are other two actors that I would like to highlight, and that is Mason Thames as Finney, who is the main boy, the main protagonist, the guy who gets kidnapped by the grabber. He kills it. Honestly, he gives one of the best child performances I've seen all year. He is absolutely amazing. And you know, this film, The Black Phone, more than on anyone else, this film rests on Mason Thames' shoulders. It rests on this actor's shoulders. Like 80% of the film, you're seeing him. You're with him. You're following him as he tries to escape. So if his performance wouldn't have been good, this film wouldn't have been nearly as good as it actually was. So yeah, Mason Thames absolutely killed it. That kid got a bright future ahead of him. And now the second performance that I would like to highlight is Madeleine McGraw, who plays Finney's sister, Finney's younger sister. Her name is Gwen. And she was great. She was amazing. You know, she plays like this badass, strong female character who stands up for herself and, you know, isn't afraid to get rough to defend the people she loves. There are also some twists and surprises with her character that I won't spoil that I really, really enjoyed. Some abilities, I guess you could say. But yeah, the thing that I love the most about Madeleine McGraw and her portrayal of Gwen is that it wasn't just dramatic and it wasn't just her being miserable the whole way through because her brother got kidnapped, but there is a nuance to her portrayal and there is a nuance to this character, and there is also some comedic moments that are, you know, sprinkled throughout the film that usually come from her. Like there are some sequences in this film where Gwen is praying and she's talking to Jesus, and those moments are so funny and so cool that I really like them. You know, everyone in my theater was laughing whenever she, you know, prayed to Jesus and started questioning him. That was a really cool moment. Okay, so that's that. Now, one of the last things that I want to touch upon for this film is the titular Black Phone, because after all, the film is called The Black Phone for a reason. That said, I won't say what the Black Phone is, and I won't say how it factors into the story, because I don't want to spoil the film for you. You know, I think it is best that you go into the movie knowing as little as you can and, you know, that you discover it on your own. That said, I will just say that I loved everything they did with the Black Phone. I thought it was very inventive, very creative, and very visually interesting. So yeah, the last thing I will mention about this movie is that it was actually quite scary, and it really got under my skin, as I've already mentioned when I discussed The Grabber, you know, Ethan Hawke's character. It was very scary, but what surprised me the most is that what scared me the most about this film were not the supernatural elements, but was the real life stuff. The fact that really scared me and really got under my skin when it comes to the Black Phone is the fact that people like the Grabber actually exist, and children do get kidnapped every single day in this world. And that is just unsettling. To conclude this review, I will say that The Black Phone is an extremely well-made film. As for a score, I would give it an 8 out of 10, which means I think it's a great, great film. So yeah, that was my review of The Black Phone. I hope you check it out and you let us know what you thought.